Alright, so I can see your audio and mine. Building threat profiles, there we go. That's very fuzzy, Jeff.
I'm fuzzy?
You're fuzzy. But you're home! Holy crap!
I am.
Seem like you're in hotels more than you are at home lately.
Well, for 3 days, basically 2 nights out of the month, I'm in Blacksburg. So it just so happens that's either the second. Well, it had been the 3rd week. It's now the 2nd week.
beer and ginger ale. It's like
Hang on.
Jameson and
Got a junior security officer coming in.
There you go. Should get him a deputy badge. He could be deputy CISO.
Could be deputy muting me.
All right, we are live and streaming. I think we're streaming. Are we streaming?
Are we?
Oh, there it goes. Yep, we're streaming.
We're streaming. Enter full screen.
You see me streaming. Sorry.
We'll go back to the meme. All right, so everybody, welcome to February. If you are going to do a month's worth of try something, February is the best month. Introductions. I am Timothy D. Block, co-founder. We have Mr. Adam Twitty with Deputy
Nolan.
Baby. Deputy
Baby.
Deputy Baby. Here to provide us some commentary on Mackenzie's threat profiling. Oh wait, we're not there yet. Hold on. To provide commentary on what is the meetup for tonight.
You're skipping 4 people and like 11 slides.
I know.
Slow your roll, sir.
I am. We have Mr. Jeff Lang, who hasn't changed his haircut in 20 years.
This is true.
Mr. David Girl, who is going to be a deputy of a tank.
Pew 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 pew.
Anyone play World of Tanks? That one bounced.
No.
So World of Tanks came out right around when Fury came out, the Brad Pitt movie.
Yeah, the movie.
I went with Ian actually. I went with O'Brien to the movie, and me and him were just going, like, making commentary. That one bounced. We were doing like World of Tank commentary. It's like when a shell would bounce off the tank.
That game, by the way, hasn't changed in the 15 intervening years. It's still just as much of a grind as it was then.
Mm-hmm. Jessica, who might show up at some point. And then Mr. Corey Grant, the director, who is off camera right now. Which is perfectly fine. He might be in bed already. We don't know. So getting connected. We have Slack. We have an archaic email list that sometimes get used. We do have Twitter. I haven't eaten dinner, and I'm a couple beers in. Not really like high gravity beers either.
Twitter's a great name for it, though.
Twitter. You really should quit Twitter. I'm just saying. If you want your life to be better, just quit all social media.
Except for the part where it's the most used social media platform for the InfoSec community.
I think what Tim is driving at, though, is that your life is at its happiest when you've severed all forms of human contact. And it's just you in a box.
No, just from social media, which is the cesspit of online.
All I need is a cabin in the woods, an internet connection, and an SSH tunnel. I can do my job. That's it.
There you go. Yep. You don't even need Twitter anymore. Although funny enough, I do have a tweet in our news section, which I found very humorous. Website, colasec.org. Email, info@colasec.org. We're, of course, on LinkedIn. And then YouTube, where you probably should be watching us if you're not here in the actual meetup. If you want to get into the meetup, go to the Slack channel, and you will get an invite. Or do we do it based on email, right? Like if they join the email list, they should get the invite?
Yeah, you've got to be a member of the listserv, the Google Groups forum / whatever, to be on the email. So I guess technically the email list is important to get the meeting invites. We haven't transitioned that.
I don't know how you transition that because you kind of need people's emails. But either way, that's good. That's how you get all the info you need is join the email. Come join us on Slack. We drop some links, some funny memes, some tweets that we find funny. Have you guys
job opportunities?
Huh?
Some job opportunities.
Job opportunities. I actually just dropped a network engineer role in the Slack channel because it's not just about security, it's about getting people to security. Which might sound like gatekeeping to some people, but either way, it's getting people opportunities to get into IT.
You did?
What?
Where?
Some people consider me saying, "Hey, go work on a service desk, go get into networking, go work on sysadmin stuff," where you're going to do some security-related activities as gatekeeping. So
No, I'm saying I don't see that what you posted.
it should. Are you in Slack right now?
Yep. Hashtag jobs.
Hold on. Let's
They
go to
took
Slack.
our
Yeah,
jobs.
we'll go live there.
Jay Dunn posted a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's right there. It's right there. And dude, this
The
is
in the general channel.
General?
Yeah. Do you
Oh
see?
my god.
Look, I have pruned
Slack
everything.
noob.
I have pruned everything. All right, well, we're going to do a live. Okay, do I need to add a channel? Apparently, because I'm getting yelled at.
Wait, it already is.
I know.
You didn't prune it.
Look,
Tim,
there's
you
only
didn't prune
20
a damn thing. All you did was blinded yourself.
All right.
You unsubscribed from the channel and then went, "Why didn't I get the meeting invite?"
Yeah. Look, there's 23 people in the jobs channel. There are 152 in the jobs channel. Everybody gets the general channel. We pruned some of these channels because there was too many of them.
Apparently.
There's only 6 channels.
Are there? Let's see.
Plus the organizers.
There's a lot more. There's t-shirt design. There's resumes,
all that.
resources, random. OSINT. There's more than 6 here. I don't.
Maybe we didn't delete them. I don't know.
Not for us to get into now. It's in the general channel. So sorry, I didn't post it in the right channel. Got the channel police over here.
Damn it, Tim.
That's why.
Hey, look, a wild Jessica's beard.
That's why you're going to make a great deputy, David, as you were good at being a Slack channel deputy.
I don't know what my Pokemon noise is, but I'll try.
Speaking of, and if you saw on my share, I did have the beer channel up, so be sure to share your beer. This is not that, but I've got a little Southern Grist sour here for the next, which is the passion fruit, dragon fruit, mango sour. It looks like
too many things.
Yes, no, it's not. It's amazing.
Adam, that's a bottle. That's not a.
Yeah, that's a bottle.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
On dry February.
Dry February.
Look, man, I just finished eating one too many slices of pizza, and beer is only going to exacerbate that problem.
True.
The pizza's there to soak up the beer.
No.
Yeah.
Well, just mixed with beer, it's just heartburn. That's all it is for me at this point, is pure fucking heartburn.
I could see that, yeah.
So.
Tums.
Yeah, do you pre-Tums your drinks? Just a little Tums in your drink? Bake your Tums into the pizza?
Grind the Tums up and snort it.
My gin and tonic is a little crunchy.
Tums is one of my primary food groups. Anyway, Tim, back on schedule.
Since Tim is busy pouring a drink.
I can talk, but go ahead.
Mental health is very important.
Mackenzie wants to present. Hurry up.
Getting interrupted is also very important.
Also
Adam, why are you still talking?
Well, now we're going to make the news section like 30 minutes long, and then we're going to argue for another 30 minutes on the cool.
This is the way. Very seriously, if you find yourself in a dark place in this magical land that is COVID, please reach out to the resources that are available to you. Poke us on Slack or email if you have it. We are around and we're here to be friendly. So we only argue with each other because it's fun. But seriously, therapy is a big help. I've been going for, God, is it 2 years now? And I will not go back. So anyhow, if you are
you will not go back to not having therapy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm going to keep going.
Just want to clarify that.
Yes, yeah, that's very poor choice of words. Not going back. Never going back. He makes me deal with my issues, and fuck all that. Making all of you deal with my issues.
Yeah. That's it. That you will be going back to therapy, but you're not going back to not therapy.
Not for another 2 weeks, damn it.
Speaking of therapy, Tuesday's News Day.
Oh no.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. So I think a lot of this has been Russia arrests ransomware gangs game.
Yeah, I was curious.
Yeah, I like how you checked this earlier and you went, "This slides look amazing," and
I
now
was,
you're saying you were curious.
I was just waiting for the explanation. I didn't think it was wrong. I just was
It's
curious.
wrong.
It's a.
It is
It's a.
absolutely wrong. Thank
Are
you,
y'all
David.
familiar
for
with the plot of Sword Art Online?
This is, by the way, how security issues get into code. Is people peer review it and go, "Huh, I was curious what this code would do in live production. It's a
Let
SQL injection."
Let me tell you something. Peer review is two developers getting together and going, "Yes, this code is fine. Push it to production immediately."
Which is what we just did.
Adam,
Which is exactly what
I
we
need
did.
to finish that sentence. Like, what about the plot?
So the so as a ransomware game, Sword Art Online kind of is. If you watch the anime at all, it like the first episode is basically the creator of the game gets on and everybody's all excited at release and he's like, "Well, congratulations, none of you can log out of this virtual reality game. If anyone tries to disconnect your headset, it will microwave your brain. Enjoy playing this game until you're all dead."
Oh,
And that's the start of the anime. So
that.
I'm sure it was just like a faulty build they pushed to production by accident.
that boss wasn't supposed to go to prod. We just installed microwave units in these headsets for funsies. This all seems like perfectly Silicon Valley things. I'm gotta be honest with you.
I
Anyway,
was thinking more Squid Game.
oof, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So Russia arrests ransomware gangs. There's a lot to kind of unpack here with this, right? Is that if you haven't heard, Russia has been positioned, if not they haven't already done it, invading Ukraine, because why wouldn't you invade Ukraine if you're Russia? And so there's a lot of, I guess,
Kolosek does not
discussion.
condone countries invading countries.
But there was a question of, is Russia doing this to like actually clean up ransomware? Because the other thing that came out too was China started pressuring Russia for like ransomware stuff, because Russia has always been known as a country that harbors a lot of these individuals that will ransomware organizations outside of Russia. As long as they don't mess with anything Russian, like Russia's like, I don't care, like go nuts on the rest of the world. And so the question is, did they finally take a moment and go, okay, maybe this isn't such a great thing, or is this more of a political thing? We're going to go invade Ukraine, and instead of U.S. giving us sanctions, we're going to go wrestle these ransomware gangs and see if U.S. will not impose sanction on us for invading Russia. It's like very, very worldly.
So they're dangling prison time for like 34 guys while they're invading another country. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I feel like, so I listen to a lot of Risky Business. I feel like they've been on both sides of this at this point. In one podcast, they're like, this is totally for this. And they're like, I don't know. So who knows at this point? Don't know if anybody else has anything else to add. I thought more people would be discussing this. But also a FSB detains administrator of Unit Carding Forum. So again, there is a bit of timing on a lot of this. It's just very interesting. And we'll see if it actually makes an impact.
So they were not Russian gangs. They were other.
They weren't Russian games. They were Russian
Gangs.
Gangs.
Okay.
Ransomware gangs. So zero trust. I found this interesting. I'm starting to go through the White House zero trust strategy, because zero trust is not a buzzword, but it's an actual strategy. And I actually like the meme there, right? If you start digging into it, it's got like just very basic principles for securing your environment. So the White House has released their zero trust strategy, which is, I think it's interesting to go through, and I thought it was kind of noteworthy. especially with what the government really seems to be ramping up a lot of their security recommendations. Even in the UK, I think they were also they were releasing like was it Nmap? No, like they were releasing some sort of like searching scripts for like using Nmap for organizations to find
Yes.
issues.
They were custom scripts built.
Custom scripts, yeah.
Used for Nmap.
Yep.
And there's currently one script.
Still, I mean, if the government's especially, I've started reading some of the government stuff, and I don't know if anybody else is doing vulnerability management stuff, but I was like, we've got to get some of the CISA stuff into our vulnerability management program, right? As far as when you get to a point within your vulnerability management program where you're dealing with some of the in the weeds stuff, it's gonna be a lot harder to correct versus, hey, maybe we should patch all Windows stuff, right? If you're really digging into some of the nitty gritty, like the CISA, because CISA releases known exploits, right? And they give a timeline for organizations to actually go remediate some of this stuff. I feel like I'm trying it out right now where if we use CISA's guidance on remediation and, stuff that's being known exploited right now, if that's a pretty decent strategy for making sure that we're, addressing when we need to. Because once you start getting down to the nitty gritty, it's like, well, so I don't know if anybody knows, but TLS 1.0, we've done some research recently. TLS 1.0 requires at this point old hardware and is very hard to exploit, right? So you see these things about, oh, we got TLS 1.0 on. Well, it requires old hardware, and really all you're doing is knocking people off their sessions, right, with the beast attack. So, it's trying to kind of give some direction there.
When did the White House become a reputable source of security strategy?
I'm going through it, so I might find that all of it's
Ever
BS,
since Drago started becoming a cybersecurity advisor for the White House administration.
I was
I like how you dropped that, Mackenzie.
I was
It's
wondering
true.
that same thing, David. I was like, did I miss something while I was on vacation?
Is this
like
the
White House?
Is this the whitehouse.com instead of whitehouse.gov? Are
Right.
they a resource now?
Well, I think it's good that they can. Well, that's the other thing too, right? Is what is zero trust strategy? Like zero trust strategy has been around for decades at this point. And for me,
it's really dredging up that argument you had with your Linux admin about whether or not the firewall needed to be turned on the box, or if no, we have a firewall at the network edge. Turn the damn firewall on the box, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm starting to dig into zero trust because it's been buzzwordy, but it's also a strategy, and it seems like a fairly reasonable strategy. And if the White House is going to release something because they've done some research, I think it's worth going through.
Yeah, it looks like it was a part of Biden's executive order on improving the nation's cybersecurity, and it's technically this is from the Office of Management and Budget, which is like
this all comes from the colonial pipeline, right? We like the ransomware gangs can like ransomware all these hospitals. We're not going to do shit. But the minute you go after a country's oil, things change, right? Like all this new government resources are being spun up to help us like combat this ransomware problem.
Who was it that handled the defer on Colonial Pipeline?
I don't know, Mackenzie. Who?
It was Drago's.
I like the dab, by the way. That's fantastic.
I just gotta, I gotta shill. I'm here to
Do
shill.
what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do, man.
I got my shill pants on.
I just really want to point out that as Tim was talking, and it's now been like 7 years since this was sent out, but at 6:49, I got my US CERT update saying there's been 9 new known exploited vulnerabilities added to the catalog today.
Boom.
So I'm pretty sure like my email heard Tim. Thanks,
Are you
Google.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you follow that, Jessica? Like, do you actually pay attention to that stuff and try to like go remediate that stuff, or?
We're recording, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So I'll say that I'm in the process of integrating it into our vulnerability management program in a more forward-looking sort of way. We're kind of doing it in a retrospective way now.
I think everybody is, because that's still
it's a new thing.
fairly new. I think that
That list dropped in what, October of last year?
Yeah, it was definitely third quarter.
Yeah, it's definitely going back and starting from the beginning and then going, oh yeah, we got to get to the point where we're kind of starting to maybe get ahead of the curve.
So yeah.
Well, and not even, yeah, I think because you're not, I don't know if you want that is an interesting thought, right? Do you start where they're currently releasing stuff that's like actively, or do you go back and be like, yeah, the stuff that was like October?
I'll be honest, it's a easy website to scrape. You can use like 15, 20 minutes worth of Googling and a PowerShell script, and you can scrape down that entire list. And it doesn't take that long to parse that into Nessus plugins or software version IDs that you can compare to a software inventory, and then start to see like, that seems bad. That's sitting on a server on the network edge. We should probably address that. So I, to me, consume the whole thing as it is and just set up a process that always consumes the entire list. I don't know that they're ever going to prune things off of it, but I would kind of like to see them do that as things drop out of favor and are no longer under active exploitation. Pull it off the list. Like, let's focus on the things.
Yeah, or at least put it on the side, right? The stuff that
Give me a top 100 or something of the current greatest pop hits.
Ooh,
and
I like that. Because you'll never get to the top 100. Like, as much as people want to get to 0, you're never going to get all the way down to the bottom.
Ask me how many times I've ever had no Nessus findings.
Well, one thing, one thing that I've discovered is that a lot of these toolings already have a module for this. So Adam mentioned Nessus. Nessus has a CISA module. So I don't know if I know Adam probably spent 30 minutes writing a script for it, but it's already in Nessus.
I'm not the Nessus administrator. I'm just an analyst.
So, well, now you can take it to your Nessus administrator and let him know, hey, there's a freaking module.
He's not in my. I wish he were in my org chart, but
oh my God,
I'm in a parallel org chart, so I have
no
control.
Yes. All right.
Anyhow.
MFA. NPM enrolls top 100 package maintainers into MFA. This is largely an idea to get the biggest package maintainers to put security around their account so that, they can't get compromised just via a password and push down malicious updates and everything. Supply chain is going to be a thing that is going to be around for a little bit. I'm including it in any threat modeling sessions at this point, and it's a big ass surface area, right?
Question I have on the wording of this, and forgive me if this is a dumb question. Are we talking about they picked the 100 maintainers that are most frequently contributing, or they picked the top 100 packages and all the maintainers now have to be in 2FA?
Based on dependencies. So yeah, to your point. Yeah. So
okay, that makes sense.
And for anybody that doesn't know AppSec type stuff, and particularly NPM, you can have a package, but then you can have a package and a package, and you can have a package and a package, and then you can have a package and a
package. It's packages all the way down.
It just goes. It just keeps going and cooking. Yeah. So this is good for the ones based on dependencies, right? So the packages that are used the most essentially will have some more security around them, which is good for things like supply chain attacks. So I think it's a good call for a lot of that stuff. This is my skating dog, and I think this would make anyone in IT laugh. I've shared this as many places as possible. I can tell right now who's multitasking and who's not.
So the problem is that you're not chained to the merry-go-round.
Yeah, I guess you could say you're chained to the merry-go-round.
Wait, that's the problem?
That's the problem with it. Like, it doesn't finish. Like, and you're handcuffed to the merry-go-round.
Right.
With one fire
I
extinguisher.
think
Good
I
luck.
think what they're saying is that they're riding one of the horses while it's on fire.
Straight
So not
into
a
hell.
chain. Yeah, straight into hell. Yeah. So especially after the Log4j stuff, I was sharing this around to make people feel better. All right. What else is in the news that people want to talk about today? I missed.
Was the acquisition of was it Citrix? Somebody got bought for like $16 billion or something like that.
Wasn't it Mandiant by Microsoft or?
No.
Oh, I know it. Oh, hold on. I know it. I gotta
Splunk
pull
by
it.
Cisco?
No, I gotta pull it. Yes, it's the no. They haven't been bought. There was a bid for $20 billion for, and I'm gonna show you another tweet because it was amazing. There's a $20 billion offer from Cisco to acquire Splunk, and this was something that somebody came up with that I thought was just absolutely brilliant. Cisco is offering Splunk $20 billion. Unclear if they're trying to buy the company or just renew their subscription for another year. This is accurate. And you think about Cisco and where they log everything, they have a big bill. And they were just like, if we're paying this bill, why don't we just acquire the company?
That's the real truth. Is
Yeah.
they don't want to pay their bills. Oh, fuck it, I'll just buy them.
There might be some truth to this, right?
Oh God, how do I share?
Corey, I don't know if you're referencing, so not Citrix at all, but another thing that hit the news end of last year was Oracle trying to or putting out an offer to acquire a healthcare company called Cerner for $28 billion.
Citrix was bought though at the end of January by a venture capitalist company.
That's it. That's the one.
For $17 billion, and they're thinking about taking it private.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of mergers for those that keep up in the gaming world. There's been a couple of well, not mergers, acquisitions that have been kind of interesting. Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft, Sony bought Bungie apparently for like 34 billion or 36 billion.
3.6.
So I thought it was 36. Was it 3.6?
Super small because
Okay.
Bungie's just the studio.
That's true. Yeah. So like just a bunch of that going on. It's just interesting.
All right.
That was it. That's all I had.
You know what's
Oh, I think that's
super
good.
interesting is I'm seeing everything from 16.5 for the Citrix sale. There's everything from 13 billion to 16.5 billion is what the deal was closed for. But then back in the end of 2021, oh no, never mind. It's them buying somebody else.
Well, and some of this stuff isn't finalized either, right? Even the gaming stuff that Corey was talking about is probably gonna take like a year before that's even finalized.
Yay, industry.
Yeah, and I want to say that, what is it? The FTC gets involved or something. And apparently, they released new guidelines.
It's the SEC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they released new guidelines.
Yeah, they're all public companies, so SEC gets involved.
I think I'd chip my tooth eating bagel bites.
Ooh, that's a hard bagel bite.
Oof.
All right, let's go to the cool wall.
Pew, 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 pew.
Are we ready to talk about Log4Shell? I do want to talk about B-Sides because B-Sides, they're starting to come back. There are in-person conferences. B-Sides Huntsville is happening March 5th. B-Sides Nashville is happening in the first weekend of April. I think it's like April 2nd. But they're coming back. April 2nd, yes. B-Sides Nashville is April 2nd. And I imagine, like, I have planned out my year. B-Sides Augusta, which is always in October, which is always a good one for people in Columbia, South Carolina. I do want to do B-Sides. Where are we putting that? I think it's Sub-Zero, just because it's affordable conferences. Adam's giving me the thumbs up.
Do it.
It's affordable conferences. I've been to developer conferences where I had to pay anywhere for $100 to $200, and I felt like I got the same content at B-Sides. It's like $15. So Unless someone wants to disagree with me. I don't think anybody is.
So everybody's going to B-sides?
I'm
Yep.
going to B-sides Huntsville.
I think I'll be at B-side.
I'm going to be Nashville for sure.
Yeah, I'll be at Nashville too.
Wait a minute, you said it was on the 2nd, right?
April 2nd. Yeah, it was B-sides Nashville.
Hey,
Okay.
does that mean we need to resurrect the upcoming events slide?
Ooh.
That's what it sounds like.
I'm looking forward to dusting that off.
Adam,
It's been
This is
a long
the
fucking time.
this is the Cul-de-sac meetup, not the organizers meeting.
Okay,
Please.
I'll accept your shade and go on mute.
Please don't assign work in this meeting.
And there's the director. That's what I call him, the director. All right. Is there anything else you guys really want to tackle, or should we move on to Mackenzie?
Permanently put log4shell in permanently disgustingly uncool. And just be
Okay,
done with it. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I don't know nobody wants to talk about it anymore.
I'm kidding. We can talk about it next meetup or something.
No, we're not going to talk about it ever again. It is the vulnerability that shall be unnamed.
Excellent.
That means next time we can talk about Stuxnet.
Yeah.
That would be a fun history lesson, actually, because that's nearly a decade old at this point, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
2007. So.
Good
15
God.
years.
Fuck off.
We've been in too long.
I have. I want out.
Yeah. All right, Mackenzie.
No,
Your
nice.
USACAN PBC League of Legends champion. My peer review failed again because PBC is in there twice.
I figured that was some kind of special, like he got a
shut
double
up. You
award.
didn't-
I saw that. And I was like, well,
what the hell, man?
Professional.
You just gotta go. Tim was doing this while he was drinking, wasn't he?
to my credit, no one asked me to peer review it. I just happened upon it because I was like, I wonder if anybody did anything today.
Right, yeah, because we haven't had the speakers' information filled out for what, the last 6?
Touche,
So,
mon frere.
I actually decided to contribute to the meetup properly, and go find an embarrassing picture of Mackenzie.
That's not
It's gonna be
embarrassing.
this picture or a Mackenzie Morris, which is a girl for a cross. It's not CrossFit. It's
Lacrosse.
lacrosse. Yeah, lacrosse team. Yes, Adam.
Just the number of typographical errors on this slide alone is amazing.
So let's call him out. I feel like we should play a game now.
Well, his name is wrong. That's always exciting.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the I is in the wrong place.
Is this supposed to be Mackenzie?
It's Mackenize. It's
Mackenize.
Mechanized infantry.
I like it. I went to Slack and it was spelled that way. So let me see. Hold on.
Which part of Slack?
His name?
I don't even know where he found that photo, but there's much worse photos of me on the internet. Now that I'm looking actively myself.
Are there?
Yeah, of course.
You want to share? Oh, the I is in the wrong place. I'm sorry. I'm just a moron. You want to share your OSINT skills?
No, they don't exist.
Is it on Facebook?
Let's not talk about it.
Facebook is no longer searchable. So, all right. Thanks to our sponsors, who probably don't want to be sponsors anymore at this point.
They
since
just
we
were
don't
a
know how to
sponsor last
spell
month. Yeah, after your obscene commentary, maybe not, but
what obscene commentary?
I'm just giving you a hard time. I don't know.
All right. So those are our sponsors. Go grab a beverage or a snack. We'll be back in 10 minutes-ish to introduce tonight's speaker, Mr. Mackenzie Morris.
exciting post intermission, whatever you call this thing, meetup. We've got Mackenzie on deck talking about something important. Jobs? No. Web threat profiles. There it is. I found my cue cards. So, please enjoy, please heckle, please comment, please do all the horrible things to Mackenzie because we love him. And take it away.
We love him,
Mackenzie.
and the meaner we are, the more likely he is to come back. That's how that works, right?
Like and subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube.
Facebook? What?
I'm leaving.
Get out of here.
Ken? Apparently he has all those embarrassing photos on Facebook, so definitely try to follow Mackenzie.
I do have good embarrassing photos on Facebook, but it's all right because my profile is 100% public because I'm a security professional. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Just give me a quick check on that one. You know, this is a video call, so.
I'm giving you a thumbs up on a camera that's not on right now.
All right. Thanks. So, so we're going to be talking about developing like a threat profile for your organization, or more a more apt sort of title would probably be developing a framework for ingesting threat intelligence about your organization based on the threats that you're most likely to face. But either way, my name is Mackenzie Morris for anyone that doesn't know me, and this is actually my SANS master's presentation that I have to give in like 2 weeks after it's been rescheduled about 7 times. So we're going to talk just about how like threats impact your organization, and if there's anything you can do about them, and maybe break down the layers of your organization to get a better understanding of how you can sort of deal with threats by putting your resources where they're most needed, sort of like getting the biggest bang for your buck with your dollar, which is the best way to reduce risk for your total organization.
Resources being humans?
Or money. Or time.
Ooh.
I mean, resources is sort of a business generic term for anything that you're constrained on. And there's going to be a little bit of specifics to industrial controls. I mean, my entire background is in industrial control systems, so I tend to think about cybersecurity in my own, industry vertical. But there'll be a lot of takeaways for regular organizations. You guys just deal with, maybe outside of like Tim, who works in a hospital, loss of life, it tends to be less of an issue if you're working at, a traditional IT shop. But risk and industrial cyber risk are sort of the same thing. I mean, it's really just threats, vulnerabilities, and the impact that come from them. In industrial cyber risk, which still pertains to regular risk, we talk about resilience as being a really big thing. Not that there's not resilience in traditional IT shops, but resilience has a little bit more meaning in the real world or in industrial control systems, because you have physical controls or industrial engineering controls or control systems. So things like blowout valves and relief valves and pipe breaks are examples of like engineering controls. There's no amount of hacking or cybersecurity guru magic you can do to stop a pipe from breaking at 1,000 psi. Threats. We talk about threats, and the thing that sort of spawned this whole escapade is that like threat is such an ambiguous term. We tend to think of like threats as like the shady guy off in the corner, or a nation state, or Russia or China, or it's like the kid next door who just figured out what like Nmap was, or it's a ransomware group that just got scooped up by Russia. And then vulnerabilities are pretty generic. I picked out Log4j because it's the most like big vulnerability recently, but now I realize that that's probably super triggering to a lot of people. And consequences always comes in the form of money, for both traditional IT and industrial IT or just industrial OT. Unfortunately, on the OT side, we usually think of loss of life and impact to your population, loss of utilities, drinking water, electricity, or stuff like that, which might lead to further loss of life. But ultimately, as morbid as it sounds, that all goes back to dollars anyway. I mean, the government classifies like human life as like $7 million or something like that if you kill like an employee in a workplace accident. So there's a lot of it always comes down to dollars when you're making risk adjustments, because at the end of the day, it's what can you get for the most what's the lowest level of security you can get to the highest amount of risk mitigation.
Wait, I'm worth $7 million?
Yeah, according to the U.S. government, unless your lawyers can argue more for you.
Damn.
That's if you're dead. That was loss of life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, loss of life only if you die.
So Peanuts now 7 million post mortem.
That is the number the U.S. government came up with when they were trying to figure
Cover
out
David,
like
$7 million.
per David.
Wait. So is it like if they die younger, is it $7 million like when you're born?
It's like the
Do you have does that
baseline number, and then like everything else has to do with your court. Lawyers can argue that like your life was going to be more valuable or less valuable based on like where you were currently in life and the trajectory of where your life events were going to take you. But that's like the baseline number. If like a factory blows up and kills 1,100 people, it's just like take 1,100 and multiply it by 7 million.
so like what you're saying is somebody really old, not $7 million.
Okay,
Kolasek does not
Really
condone
quick.
discrimination.
Mackenzie Morris does not say that. The federal government of the United States
We're
says
gonna-
that.
We're gonna just nip this in the bud and leave it
could-
there.
There's an entire Wikipedia page on the value of a human life based on what jurisdiction you fall under. So you can just go read that.
Someone said to heckle.
Yeah, man, I'm having flashbacks to stick figure mustaches and
Let's talk about what threats are. And we use there's a nifty thing called the Dino model that was developed by a wonderful guy named Sergio, who is now the VP at Trigos. And essentially, it breaks down threats in using 4 categorization criteria. And those have 2 relationships between them. So it's adversary, capability, victim, and infrastructure. There's like a social political relationship between the adversary and the victim. Who's attacking who and maybe why. And then there's a technological relationship between the infrastructure that they have to compromise and the capability that they have to compromise that infrastructure. So you have both like the can I hit you with what you have, and why am I targeting you specifically, which are sort of like the 2 relationships that you define. When you categorize activity groups like an APT or a threat group of interest, you typically have 3 of these things understood based off of threat capabilities or their behaviors. So when you're doing something like APT 31, you'll have identified 3 of these, but something's usually missing, which is why there's like a triangle. So let's talk about like understanding your organization from a threat adversary perspective. Really getting into like the red hat, red team mindset for what am I doing when I look at an organization. So starting off, we have the system owner, which is like the primary organization that we're going to create for. So it's going to be the top of the most basic geometric trait, which is a triangle, because as all things are, you narrow it down. You're trying to really hone in on the important things. So we start off with the system owner. It's just going to be the organization that you create the threat profile for. And then we get to like the critical system or subsystem, which is going to be the collection of assets or the network or the specific system in which you're doing this for. If you're a really large organization, you're going to have to develop different threat profiles based on the geography of your organization or maybe the different systems that you have. If you're a merger acquisition company with 100 different facilities around the world, they probably all need their own, or at least each geographical area does. So you'd say like maybe Eastern, Western North America, Europe, Latin America, they would all have their own sort of threat profile.
And that's related to geopolitical things that would occur in those areas, or I guess it could be land or disaster based as well, right?
Yeah, so you're thinking about things like if I'm a single oil and gas company, I have both downstream, midstream, and upstream oil and gas, and those 3 vertical in like industrial vertical sectors have different threat criteria for them. And then those go on to be like, oh, maybe you also own electric utility and you also own water. So those are all 5 different like industrial verticals. So each of those sort of like systems sort of behave themselves, like behave differently and operate in a different threat landscape. So we need to think about them differently. So when you create a threat profile, you're not trying to take like, I want to create a threat profile for the United States government or something like that, or I want to create a threat profile for Exxon. It's a little bit too broad. If we start that wide out, we'll never get to where we need to get to for like understanding like the Colonial Pipeline as an
Okay.
example,
Gotcha.
or the Department of Revenue of South Carolina as an example. So we really need to pick a system that is finite and easy to understand, so that we can really like dig down into the components of those. And the reason we want to do that is because these things sort of define the victim, right? So that's the victim criteria. It's who you are and sort of like what you do. What's the primary function of the system that you have? Those are all victim criteria when we're trying to like figure out, what is an adversary looking for. Next thing is the critical function. So the principal task that you're trying to perform with your system. So if I am a pipeline, the critical function is to deliver fuel. If I am a healthcare company, it's to provide, I guess, healthcare services. So yeah, it would be like the primary function of Epic, which is the software. But if you're a healthcare company and you use Epic, Epic would be your critical system. Delivering healthcare would be your critical function. And as part of that critical function, you have components, and those components are essentially the hardware and software that allow you to fulfill the function of your system. So you're like narrowing it down, like what is the hardware, what is the software, what are the things that we need to run at like a minimum efficiency to like fulfill the function of our system, which is really the infrastructure. Like what do you have on premise, and what is the most important items of those to like do your mission or do your fulfill your business objectives, I guess. We always talk about mission in operational technology because everyone has like this really big hard on for like I don't know, doing the mission. We gotta deliver water and power to America so everyone can eat their microwave ovens.
Eat?
Hold on.
I don't think you have.
You need to polish your delivery there a bit.
I don't think you have a good grasp on how humans work there, buddy.
Yes, sorry about that one. Fuck yourself, Adam. So in OT we use controllers. I actually have one, but I don't want to go and get it. Controllers aren't necessarily specific to operational technology. They still have their place in IT, except for your controllers are going to be anything that has the ability to manipulate the environment, or anything with a lot of authority. Obviously, domain controllers are super important. Might also be something like your SQL database or your front end website.
Is that a typo?
What's up?
Assets that have the ability to manipulate the environment. Your
Oh yeah,
last one.
that's a grammar mistake. Yeah, I haven't reviewed my slides. I actually have a bunch of comments, but I'm just not using the like they're still marked with the whatchamacallit, version control in Microsoft Word, but I hit them all. So you're correct. Thank you for pointing that out, though.
Peer review. This is just a big peer review session at this point.
Yes. And the reason that we're doing this sort of like tiered structure is really trying to like point out um, the crown jewels of your environment, which is like if you break this, everyone's gonna have a shit day, and it's these. So it's a subset of the components and the controllers that make up the most important parts. So this is all based off of the U.S. Stratcom target tiering handbook, which is how the U.S. Picks out targets for military strikes. by targeting the things that have the largest impact. And when, as an adversary, you look at your victim, and then you figure out the infrastructure that you have to compromise, and whether you have the capability to reach those crown jewels to really, rake in the big bucks and or target the things that matter. You look at, okay, what can they manipulate the environment with, and can we reach them? And if I'm going to manipulate the environment, what are the things that I need to manipulate to do the most impact? So I'm going to use an oil and gas company, mostly because I work with oil and gas companies like every single day, to give you an example of like what this looks like. So we're going to go like Acme Oil and Gas, obviously not a real company, but based off of one. And they're going to have a generic coastal pipeline, not referencing any other, real life pipeline, but a pipeline that runs
Does it
in.
go from the northeast to Texas?
No, it doesn't. Also, Colonial Pipeline doesn't run anywhere close to the coast, FYI.
Yeah, but if
Good job, Tim.
That's right. That's right. Go back on mute. Coastal pipelines usually refer to pipelines that bring gas in from a LNG terminal, FYI. So if we're going to look at like a publicly traded small cap company, when we think about who you are, you're a little bit more than just your name, right? You are, a regional entity. You are a public versus private company. You have details, investors. Who are the investors? Maybe they're not targeting you, a company as specific. Maybe they're targeting the people that own a portion of your company, or maybe they're targeting the stock market or something else. Maybe they're targeting the fact that you're a US organization or that you're operating. Maybe they're eco terrorists and they don't like the vertical sector that you're in. All of these things are attributes that pertain to who you are and what you do. And it's a little bit more important than, we push gas down a pipeline. It gets a little bit, more expansive than that. And then next you get into the critical functions and components of that pipeline, which is we're delivering natural gas or any other fuel oil. It could be crude oil or fuel oil at this point. And the components that we need to do that, which would be pressure control through pumps and compressors. We need leak detection. We need storage, which would pertain to control valves and either floating tanks or open tanks. So we transport fuel. We typically run in 24/7, 365 operations because everyone needs their heat all the time. So we're trying to provide fuel oil. We have a capacity that we can deliver, either ramp up or ramp down. We have pumping stations, and those pumping stations have particular pumps, and those particular pumps have particular vendors, and those vendors have particular vendor solutions for those. So it's a little bit more expansive than this is what we do and this is how we do it, but we can fulfill our mission in a particular criteria, and we sort of inherit the risks and the attack surface of everything that we involve, like that's involved in our mission operations. So that includes every single vendor. This is way more of an issue on OT as it is in IT, but I mean, you guys still have your. I say you guys as if OT and IT aren't closely related and work hand in hand all the time, but you guys also have your vendor snafus and having to deal with vendors very stringent requirements for how they access your environment or provide you support. Unfortunately, in OT, it usually involves an organization having to support 7 to 8 different types of remote access so that vendors can use the tool that they want. So then you get into controllers. We have remote terminal controllers, distributed control systems, SCADA systems, PLCs. These things are all provide direct control to physical hardware, where they sort of break the physical cyber boundary and allow you to, via electrical impulse, manipulate real world objects. Those are always really important because if you get access to them, usually it's unauthenticated, and you could start, pushing values to different IO points to then like really impact the organization. But in an IT world, you can do the same thing when you get, domain admin and get on the domain controller, like get primary access to the networking backbone. Anytime you can push values that start breaking things, sort of hit a controller. And then in a crown jewel assessment, focusing on a pipeline. RTUs, super important, road terminal units. They are wireless, long distance, wide area network access points for you to control something like a compressor station 1,100 miles away. Leak detection systems, because of an organization called the EPA or something. I don't know. Sounds like a Democrat made it. If your pipeline doesn't meet pipeline fuel oil or fuel oil specifications for composition, you aren't allowed to run. So if you leak anywhere or your fuel oil drifts outside of a certain set of parameters, you have to shut down your pipeline. So it's one of the most important systems for pipeline running, because if it ever goes down or ever breaks, you have to shut down operations. It's like one of the big giant red button kill switches, even if it's a false alarm, or if you lose visibility and it doesn't necessarily break, but you just lose your connection to it, also have to shut down. And your SCADA system, which is how you open and control all of the valves and pumps and compressors along your pipeline. And then more important than all of that is the engineering workstation, which is the Windows desktop computer that you control all of those other systems with, which is your single like stand up computer that has like 4 monitors and one of these systems on each monitor, and then you manipulate it by clicking on the GUI in front of you. So that
Windows
single
XP?
work depends on what control system you're using, but sometimes Windows XP, sometimes Windows 7, sometimes it's a server using 2008 or 2012.
Oh boy.
The whole point
I
of
was
this,
really hoping for Windows NT in there.
only a nuclear. And the whole point of this is you're really trying to provide this like honing in. It's a framework to understand like, this is my organization. These are the things that I have to protect in order to keep running. It's sort of like the concept of like minimum running operations. If you lose certain things, you can keep running. Another example would be in electrical systems. You can lose access to your smart metering, which is how electric companies bill you, but you'll still get power because the US government mandated that like, just because your billing system goes down doesn't mean you can stop providing electricity to your customers, which is not what happened for some other organizations that provide critical services, where they lost access to their billing system and they shut down because they didn't want to lose money, and provide public services for their customers, which is now a mandate, but at the time it wasn't. Some years ago.
So you're saying they made the choice to shut down because the billing system was shut down?
Yeah, because otherwise they'd be
Okay.
providing free public utilities that they couldn't charge for.
Gotcha.
So depending on what organization you're in, that's sort of important. Now, you can make that determination that your pricing model or your smart meter system isn't as important as something like your electric distribution center. And for some reason, a cat is now outside of my door meowing a fuck ton, but we're gonna ignore that.
Coastal pipeline is spelled wrong.
Coastal
Coastal.
pipeline. Coastal pipeline. Thank you.
It's a
I'm dyslexic,
postal
so-
pipeline.
Apparently, everybody got English degrees between last month.
Hey, it's 20,
we were
20
told there was a $20 coupon if we reviewed this fucking
Mackenzie, did
sans
you realize that you
presentation.
were providing a presentation to the editors' monthly meeting?
I just want you guys to know that I have I'm diagnosed dyslexic, so you guys are making fun of a person with an inability, like a disability. So I'm gonna shut you guys down. You guys are canceled.
If any organization has ever deserved it, Colasec does.
This is a slide that's supposed to be earlier in the presentation, but I didn't know where to put it. This is supposed to be a 30-minute talk that breaks down a like 40-page paper into a brief webinar or webcast. So definitely not understanding how my timing is supposed to work or how I'm supposed to get to all the points that I want to get to. But the important part is that you develop a framework to ingest and understand threat intelligence for your organization by understanding the most important parts to continue operations and or what you need to protect. Understand who's the most likely group to attack you. Not to say that some organizations aren't important, but nation state military and intelligence services don't always attack, small game. Like the owner of Sharpie Marker or something like that, the manufacturing facility for Sharpies in Tennessee that makes all the Sharpies in the US. Like maybe not Russia, maybe private hacker groups, or maybe eco-terrorists who don't like how much ink they use and sometimes spill into local like rivers or something. So you're really trying to focus in on the capabilities. Now, MITRE and the CISA through the Department of Energy, Sandia National Labs goes out and does a whole breakdown on like the capability level of different threat groups, broken through like advanced through unsophisticated, and then the types of attacks that they have the ability to use. So you're not looking at 0 days if you're not like a critical organization that's worried about advanced threats, and you're not sort of like looking at super unique or sophisticated, I guess, attacks, but you are worried about like weaponized Metasploit because someone learned it on YouTube or on a forum somewhere. Or maybe you're worried about people that have taken a couple SANS classes or like have their OSCP and just decided to go black hat and make some extra money. Those are sort of like the organizations that you might be more worried about. Then you should need to raise your level of security, which a lot of times is investment in perimeter security. So it's all about sort of like determining where you sort of fit on the total threat landscape from top to the bottom, and then bringing up your defense. Now, I would never advocate for you to do the bare minimum for cybersecurity, but on a business like cost benefit analysis, like that's where your C-suite's always coming from, is what's the, can we just get there with spending like, I don't want to spend $1 more than I need to defend against every single threat that's going to be thrown at us this year, and then next year we'll reevaluate. So the next steps. So now you can go and sort of just take the slide deck that I'll send you or post online, or you could rewatch the YouTube video. Is just think about your own organization in the same way. What are our critical components? How do I get to them? What are the attributes that define my organization as a whole? And what are the adversaries that I'm really worried about? So that way, when you see things from US CERT or you get emails at 6:30 in the evening and there's 9 new vulnerabilities, are they vulnerabilities of your crown jewels? Are they vulnerabilities of things that matter to you? I mean, honestly, a good example is Log4j. Log4j is huge, and there's a lot of applications or appliances that have Log4j in them, but sometimes Log4j exists in a place that's not exploitable from the outside. Where often it's really funny when people talk about, needing authenticated access. Like if you have authenticated access to an HMI, you can now do like some sort of crazy attack where you change the logic on it. But like if you have authenticated access to an HMI or a PLC and OT, you use the GUI on it to manipulate the environment. You don't need to do anything more. Like regular users have the ability to do everything you could possibly want. Why do you need admin access? So it's sometimes about, sorry, I was reading Tim's comment. Sometimes it's about just understanding that sometimes CVS scores are blown up and getting an idea of, getting the capability or, increasing your infrastructure so that attackers no longer have the capability. And this is all tied to MITRE attack. I mean, MITRE has done a really good job. If you aren't regularly leveraging MITRE to sort of describe your threats or mitigation capability to your executive staff, you're sort of doing yourself a disservice because it's like a very tangible thing to point to. For a very credible organization, it's very easy to. And then at the end of the day, you have to stay vigilant. I mean, the problem is that threat landscapes change. So does your threat profile. Your company can make some blunders in the media, or they could go out of the way to buy it. Like maybe they acquire a new division, or they expand, or you get into a new industry vertical, or you just start making way more money. and become a super like public company, and then everyone's gunning for you because they know you can pay the ransom.
Dragos.
That worries me every day, David. By the way, so Sonoria, we have a crack security team, so I'm not super worried about it. Me as an individual, I will probably get hacked at some point because I'm not that great about my own personal security. So just quick summary. We're really focused on threats that we should be concerned about. You know, not everyone should be worried about Russia hacking them or China hacking them. Not everyone should be worried about ISIS trying to deface their website or the Israeli intelligence services, unless you say anything about Israel, in which case you should be worried about them. And you got to really hone in on the threats that are most likely to apply to your organization. You have to understand your own organization better than attackers can, because when attackers go through and create campaigns to get into organizations, they spend the time, they do their homework, and they research your organization so they can go in and take what they need and do their own mission, unless it's a random ransomware that someone downloaded off the internet, in which case I can't help you.
Internet ransomware.
And the other thing is the whole object is to prioritize. You know, build your security controls around what matters most. You have to figure out your most critical assets, your crown jewels, and then you build your security around those outward so that you can protect the most important parts of your like organization and find out your minimal operating conditions so that you can run your organization even half of the appliances and devices in it have succumbed to ransomware. Anyway, I have social medias or emails if anyone needs to reach me or tweet at me, because I use Twitter. Tim.
I use it too. I just followed you on Twitter.
Cool.
I'm looking at your dope memes, or the dope memes that you're retweeting. Question. So with this new Russia invading Ukraine thing, how concerned should I be as a U.S. based company in X industry?
If you
General
are,
standpoint.
if you're not in a critical controls sector, then not that much. Russia's got all like Russia's got all hands on deck for critical infrastructure because that's what has the most military impact. So you are looking at
But
any
being here in the U.S., like, should we really be, if they're going after Ukraine, do we really even infrastructure? Do they have to really worry about Russia stuff, or
so a
is
good
it just would be?
example.
It feels like their critical infrastructure threat profile would be the same, whether
So a
Ukraine's
good
invaded or not.
example is that Biden activated 4 LNG terminals to supply to supply natural gas exports to Ukraine in the case that Russia shut off gas. So those 4 terminals and the companies surrounding them are all on heightened security right now, because if you're Cove Point, which is a massive LNG terminal in Maryland, and you've just been given an order, a huge buy order by the US government to send fuel to Ukraine or Europe in order to essentially replace Russian gas in the event that they shut it off. You know, Russia's now definitely created a target campaign for you, because that's critical infrastructure that's directly supporting, Russia's biggest leverage on Eastern Europe, which is gas imports. So that would be an example of you need to worry because of who you are, right?
Well, yeah, you're still, you're involved, actively involved in supporting Ukraine.
Yeah. So if you're a random commercial company, then the answer is not that much at all. If you are something like a power utility, then the answer is you should be more worried because you're more vulnerable. And if you wanted to disrupt, if the bear was mad about U.S. intervention, they would hit you where it hurts, which would be like shutting lights off in Texas or something like that, or ruining your water treatment facility.
Yeah, but those have always been a problem for us, right?
Who's the bear? What's a bear?
Russia.
Oh.
Yeah, Cozy Bear, Fuzzy Bear, Little
Oh,
Bear,
Fuzzy. He
Warm
sounds
Bear,
cute.
Mackenzie Bear,
Grumpy Bear.
Grumpy. There you go, Grumpy Bear, Bearded Bear, Black Bear, Beat Bear, Battlestar Galactic Bear.
There's a lot happening right now.
Yeah, I just like saying bear. Bear's a fun word to say. Yep, Noah pulls up a good thing. It's page 7 of the CrowdStrike report for animals in the countries. So each what does America get? That's what I want to know. Like, I know we have. What do we get? Do we get eagle? Like, are we fuzzy eagle and grumpy eagle? Anyone know? We gotta have something, right? Because the U.S. That's what I like to point out to people. It's like nation-state actors: Russia, China, U.S. or a nation-state too.
Israel.
Israel. Yep. Who's got the cockroach?
Tennessee.
Cat. We don't have a lot of cockroaches here.
I guess South Carolina then. Anyway, Tim, what is your most critical asset in your organization?
I am not telling you on a recorded session. I know all the skeletons in my closet.
One of the questions I like to ask people is, what does a bad day look like for you? When I do interviews
I will
with
tell you.
low level or like more technical savvy folk, the IT administrator that's been there for 20 years, or the guy that went back to the place when they used to work in Fortran or something like that, or that uses Cobalt. Like, what does a bad day look like for you? What makes you come into work and then go home and just not deal with it? Like, what would make you retire right now because you didn't want to rebuild it? Those sorts of assets are important.
I killed the recording, but we're still streaming on YouTube, so.
Okay. Well, Corey is playing some wicked Heroes of the Storm right now. Like,
LOL.
I hope he's winning.
Playing Ganis, doing pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah. Speaking of critical assets, critical asset does not necessarily indicate most vulnerable asset, right? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, 100%. It's the asset that if went offline would have the biggest impact.
So
who do you ask? Who do you ask if I walk in and I'm having a bad day, such a bad day that I'm going to retire? Who's that question directed at? Because if I ask that question of a C-suite, I'm going to get one answer. If I ask that question of IT, I'm going to get a completely different answer. And if I ask that question in a different department at IT, I'm going to get a completely different answer. Like, everybody's got their thing. Like, no, I'm not touching that again. But what's the most value to the organization?
I actually have a story. I'm going to be very general and vague about this. So we recently had an incident that took down the business essentially for 3 days. And it was one area within the data center, and it was due to a third-party auto update that caused it to stop for a variety of reasons internally, right? And this is third-party software. This is the big problem. Adam, I think I texted you about some of this. I'm looking for all of the specific function, all of the third-party software that auto updates, and this third-party software auto updated for a lot of people, and it took down one of our most critical pieces that people didn't realize. Like, it was there, but then they realized, oh crap, there's a lot of business that runs on this thing, and so now they're going through and trying to clean up a lot of that stuff. So sometimes you find it based on how much hell it causes within IT and the business for a week.
So, Adam, to give you a more like a different perspective on that, especially when I do like architecture reviews and topology reviews and program reviews or whatnot for customers. The answer is everyone. Off the cuff, I want to know what is everyone's bad day, and then from that, sometimes those overlap. They're just not in the same. Sometimes they're the same thing. There's not in the same terms. The bad day for like the C-suite might be loss in production, but that might be to the IT team or the engineering team. A specific asset or line goes down. So um, it is more about like what does what happening or what event triggers something that just sort of it makes your life hell, but it sort of just makes your organization's life painful. That might be like I don't think a database replication error would do it, but I know I'm trying to think
Boy,
in manufacturing there is so when Elmer's glue is made, it's held inside a heated tank, and it's put into bottles like through like a hose that's like heated. If the heat sink breaks on that, all the glue will harden inside of the extruding apparatus, and all of the pipes, and like it takes like weeks to clean out. Um, that happens in a lot of extruding materials. I just happen to have recently done Elmer's glue, but there's a lot of materials that are extruded that sometimes if you run to outside of the boundaries of operating conditions, you like ruin the line. And it can take a very long time to get that up. Now, as an individual, working on the floor, you might think, yeah, that just sucks. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna have to use like a acetylene blowtorch and like slowly melt each individual section of the line until I can get it back. And some of it might be unreachable, or I might need to replace a bunch of parts. Um, as a factory manager or as a business analyst, you might be like, well, we're not shipping material for 4 weeks, which is customers, clients, dollars out the door, and they're really the same thing. Sorry, Nolan asked, how would building a threat material for insider threat differ between ICS and CI, which I assume is corporate IT, and your average company, or critical infrastructure and your average company? Um, so when you think about insider threat, some people like to hand wave it off as like, oh, there's nothing we could possibly do about it. But it's you build the security controls around the crown jewels. So what are your most critical assets? What are your most critical items that you need to protect? And then you put in specific controls around insider threat, because I think insider threat is sort of like a uniform. Like I think the disgruntled employee is always a thing every company should be worry about, because I think everyone's had the idea, like the dark thought in their mind about like, what could I do um, if I wanted to, or what could I do on my way out the door to like get back at these people. So when you think about insider threat, it's what controls do you put in place around your crown jewels to prevent them from going down. It's always about resilience, mitigation, and then like mean time to recovery for those like core assets.
So is all of this something you can do internally, or is this something you like need a third party for?
So you can do it internally. It's a teaching process, so you can scope it yourself. I mean, you can always bring a third party in to do it for you, um, but it's really a exercise in essentially investigation. So you can start yourself right now. What company do I work for? What are the systems of those company, right? Do we support multiple things? Are we a single organization? Do we have multiple business functions? What do we do? What are we trying to do? Like, what is the name critical functionality of my business entity? So provide licenses, I guess, or like you're also like a database for everyone's like photo ID. Um, I don't necessarily know what the DMV does outside of like my consumer usage of it. And then you go into the components. What what allows me to do that job every day? What are the 4 or 5 assets that I rely on to like fulfill that job functionality?
Yeah.
And then what allows you to manipulate those assets? I have those components. It might be 5 or 6 or 7 different servers or appliances or applications or connections or individual assets. And what allows me to manipulate those on a day-to-day basis to do my job, or the users of my organization to do that job. And that's, you sort of like figure out. It's more of a scoping thing, and it's really about drilling down to like, here's 4 to 5 things that are the most important, that would have the biggest impact, that have the longest mean time to recovery, that have they incur the highest costs. If you had to tear down your entire if everything in your network got ransomwared, or you got ransomed for everything in your environment except for 5 computers, what would it be? Like, what 5 computers would you save? Like, you got one lifeboat on the Titanic. Like, who are you taking with you?
Not Tim.
You never take a Tim.
I'm thinking like somebody from, accounting, so we can get the books going again.
Not your company. I'm talking about your computer servers. All right.
Oh, literally just servers.
Yeah.
Like your SAP system?
No, nobody has those anymore.
Everyone has an SAP system.
Well, if you're in UKG, you don't have them right now because they've been ransomware. But
Oh.
Yeah, we felt the effects. We were doing manual timesheets for the past month.
oh,
Mm.
you were doing manual timesheets. There's some poor sap in finance that is really having a shitty time.
Is anywhere that you can find case studies on any of this where they've used the same kind of theory for figuring out threat modeling? Does that make sense?
Yes. I know. I was just gonna pause for dramatic effect.
I thought you were looking for resources,
you
not
could
trying
find
to be
it
a dick.
all. You could find it all on the Drago's website.
Do they peer review their website before?
Oh yeah, they do. I'm just unprofessional.
That was a strange way of saying you're a member of Colasec.
I mean, this is really it's really called a crown jewel analysis. The threat part comes from just expanding on the basic components of a crown jewel analysis to include attributes of an organization and then relate them to the diamond model. Fortunately, 25 minutes is a little bit short for that, but we're running through it. Or we ran through it. There you go. Here's a paper on it. And if you want, I'll message you my paper on it, which is about 4 times longer. Anyone else have any other questions? Or shortest presentation ever, Coalsec, speed run, anything.
I mean, we started about 50 minutes ago, so.
Not shortest, but most concise, maybe.
Hey man, it's an effective presentation. I like it.
GG.
Hey.
Is that a mini, Jess?
It is. It is. Out of the shower.
What do you think of threat modeling and building your threat profile?
What? Jamie. That's what you think of threat modeling, huh? Oh, okay.
Something via Microsoft Surface.
It's the most clear thing I've heard all night.
I love my pretty dress.
You love your pretty dress. I feel the same way. She also has an affinity for pockets.
Mommy, you
Is she the new Black Widow?
No, she's the pink Power Ranger. Are you the pink Power Ranger?
Packets?
Wait, isn't that
Like
sexist?
network packets?
Why can't a dude be a pink Power Ranger? Why
No,
can't
no,
she be
no,
the
no,
blue
no,
Power
no.
Ranger?
No. Are you the pink Power Ranger? Really?
It was the 90s.
I got princess.
You're a
wants to-
princess. Oh, okay.
She's the Princess Power Ranger. There you go.
I appreciate the fact that
love my princess costume.
I love the princess costume.
we love it too, darling. I
I wanna know-
appreciate the fact that she was like, "No, I'm not that thing right now. What's wrong with you?"
She was the pink Power Ranger all day. What do I know? Were you the pink Power Ranger today?